Welcome back to the Critical Moves podcast. I'm Al, and I'll be your host for the evening. And today I'm joined by Drexy.
Good evening. Well, no, it's midday.
It's midday. If we're going to talk about times, we're also joined by a very sleepy Joe.
Good evening. That's my Drexy voice. Yeah, it's 6 a.m. here.
Joe is what a legend, what a trooper, getting up 6 o'clock in the morning to come and talk to the Brits about today's subject, which is modern gaming too expensive? And this is something that Drexy brought up, and I think it has a lot of value because I think it's something which everybody is kind of feeling the pinch on. So, Drexy, let's come to you first of all because that makes the most sense, and we'll give Joe an opportunity to wake up a little bit more. Is modern gaming too expensive?
Yeah, I mean, in the light of the RAM apocalypse, as it's been known, where basically all these AI companies have been buying up all the RAM and storage, and I think RAM's gone up like 400%. Recently, everyone was waiting for the Steam machine to come out, and people were guessing it was going to be around like 600, 650 to maybe 800 tops dollars, and it's come out, what was it, over $1,000. So, and while strategy gamers are not always into like the top AAA type, need the fast 5090 or whatever, I think it's going to come to a point where newer games come out, like we recently spoke about Warhammer 40k, where there's just going to be a lot of people who couldn't play it. Like, I'll give an example. Warhammer 3 I updated my computer at the beginning of 2025, and before that I had like a 8th gen i5 and a 2060, and I just could not play Warhammer 3, or rather I had to limit it to 30 frames per second and drop the graphics down and stuff. But luckily I got in just before the RAM apocalypse and upgraded my computer, but who knows when I'm going to be able to do that again, basically. Also, the consoles has gone up, and I believe there was talk of the PlayStation 6 being delayed because of this as well. So, the next gen of consoles, there's talk of them being all over $1,000 on release. So yeah, it's like, what can players do in light of this? Especially because as strategy game players, we don't really want to be upgrading our computers that much, but it's going to come to a point that, yeah, we're going to need to.
So your complaint really is around the hardware for a decent PC, as in having to get RAM for a decent PC. And I suppose it is a good point if you are new to PC gaming, and if you don't have a PC and you think, well, I want to go and play one of those lovely strategy games, which are not available on a console. How do you get into PC gaming without having £1,000 or $1,000 to spend on a decent machine?
Well, it's going to be more than that now. Like, for example, the Steam Deck has been really popular, and it introduced a lot of console players to PC gaming. And they were all looking forward to this Steam machine, right? And now it's come out, it's underpowered for what it costs, and it just costs too much.
What do you think, Joe?
Similar to Dreximus, I got a new computer right before prices got crazy, and so I have slipped in. But that computer I bought is actually still pretty reasonable at Staples, FYI. If you want to go looking for an Asus TUF laptop, I only do laptop gaming because I am always traveling, so it makes it easier for me. I could be wrong, but I feel like laptops have risen a little less than everything else. That could just be a self-serving bias for me. But you know what I do? I agree with Drexy, by the way, that it is outrageous, the idea of upgrading my computer now, but there are so many old strategy games out there that are still awesome that I haven't even touched, and I'm gonna play those. That's my plan. I'm gonna play my backlog. In fact, I'm ordered to play my backlog.
Well, you have to. You've been told to, haven't you? You were told to
Mhm.
2 weeks ago by Drexy and Adam that you had to play some games in your backlog, and I
Mhm.
think this is perhaps the thrust of the argument, or the thrust of the issue, is that modern gaming is becoming expensive because of hardware costs, but not only that, but also the cost of games as well, which we can talk about in a little bit. But the last episode we did was on the Steam sale, where you can get some absolute bargains, and the episode before that was about or was it the way around? I forget. But one of the previous episodes is also about our piles of shame, where we all have hundreds of games, sometimes thousands of games, sat unplayed on our machines or in our libraries. So we don't need to worry about playing the latest AAA titles unless we absolutely want to. And we don't need to worry about upgrading our machines because these games are older and therefore their specifications are less.
Right. And as someone with a ludicrous amount of games on Steam, I won't say how many.
It's
I have
outrageous.
I have a massive backlog. And not only that, even with older games, there are mods and that sort of bring them up to modern standards. Like,
Mhm.
for example, the beginning of this year, I was actually playing well, it's called F Heroes, which is a mod for Heroes of Might and Magic 2. It sort of brings it up to HD, runs on sort of modern monitors, upscales the UI and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people just sort of, they look at it and go, oh, I don't want to know, or it won't run on my computer because it's so old. But there's some real gems out there that you probably might have missed the first time round, that along with like services like GOG and mods and that, they are actually still very playable today, right?
Absolutely. I mean, let's talk about the price of games themselves, because if you think the most obvious AAA strategy game released recently that I can think of would actually be Civ 7.
Yeah.
Which was $70 at launch, and I think there was maybe some pushback on that in terms of people thought that was really expensive, because of course prices are going up, and they don't go up by from $60 to $61; they go from 60 to 70 because that's how price points work, um, and that seems to be the deal now, doesn't it? I mean, I think GTA 6, which I think we have mentioned in passing in the past, even though it's not a strategy game, is due out in November, and I think that's going to be $80 or something like that, and that's just for the standard edition. If you want to get deluxe or ultimate or whatever, then you're looking over $100. And I think people are naturally pushing back against these price increases, and I sometimes think it's a bit unfair for us to push back against these price increases, because we want the best games, we want the best technology. We want improved graphics, improved stories, better maps, bigger explosions, but we don't want to pay any extra for the extra content. Are we just tight?
I'm gonna fire back at you on this because I actually bought Civ 7 for the podcast and played it, and that game sucks. And you said we
I
want
remember.
better, we want the better everything, and we did not get it. I did not get it. I got a worse experience and paid more for it. So I get where you're going with that, but that's probably why I don't buy new games anymore. Actually, is Civ 7. We were talking before the podcast that that's the last new game I bought that was brand new, was Civ 7. I'm interested in the newest Europa Universalis, but I have not purchased it. Why? Because I'm not that interested and it's so much money. I was like, you know what? Let's just wait. I don't mind. I got all these games I have to play, and there's no way in hell I'm gonna buy the new GTA game.
But I want to push back here, because was it so much
Push.
money? Was it so much money? Because in preparation for this, and when I say that,
You can get
20
70 double cheeseburgers with that.
Well, you can. But in preparation for this episode, so I say like 20 minutes before we actually hit record, I looked at the prices, and I looked at Civilization as an example. Okay, so Civilization 4 was released in October 2005, and it was $50. Civ 5 was released 5 years later, it was $50. Civ 6 was released October 2016. It was 60, and Civ 7, released in February 2025, was 70. So there's a price increase going up there, yeah. So and that's what it looks like, because this is how our simple human brains works. Like, well, it's gone from 50 to 70 over the course of 4 games, and that's it sounds ludicrous. However, when you adjust those prices for inflation, Civ 7 is actually cheaper than Civ 4. So if you adjust it for 2026 inflation, Civilization 4 should be about $85. That's how much you would have paid for it now, whereas Civ 7 is $70 still. So,
Yeah, but in 1990, my parents spent how much money for a big screen? They spent how much money for a big screen, and now they can get a TV 3 times the size for 1/4 of that price.
Yeah.
Not everything has to continuously go up. There's more game developers than ever right now. They don't have to keep raising these prices, in my estimate. Especially when they're going to put out a shit ass game. Sorry, you can cut that word.
No. I'm not going to cut anything out. But you're right. However, what we went back to, and I know you said you didn't have this experience with Civ 7. We said we want bigger, better all the time. We want games which are in 4K, so you can use your big screen to play them, or you need a 4K screen to be able to play the game to its maximum ability. So we want developers to push the envelope when it comes to development. We want bigger and better games. We don't always get them, but they'll never try and sell Civ 7 as it's a poorer experience than the earlier titles. So we want bigger and better, but we're not prepared to pay the price for those increases, when in fact the data suggests that we're actually paying less than what we were paying for the older games.
Well, the problem with that is that wages haven't been keeping up with inflation for a start. Games are becoming way too expensive to make, really. I don't have the numbers, but I could imagine that Civ 5 probably took hundreds of less people and probably cost a lot less than Civ 7 has cost, right?
Yeah, I'd imagine so, because wages were less, because there was less people involved, because they didn't have to. Did Civ 7 come out on console as well at the same time? Or
I think so. I think that was
nobody's making them put games out on consoles that they're not designed for.
No, but that of course increases your production costs, because you've got to test it against consoles as well, and you've got to stick to console specifications and things like that as well. So there's all these inherent additional costs, and therefore the price of games is going to go up, and unfortunately that's just that's capitalism. That's just the way it is. And I'm not saying I'm happy with it. It's not really a case of whether I agree with it or not. This is just the facts of the world we live in, and I don't think it's such a bad thing. But
there is a cat argument being PC gamers that as you spoke about the Steam Summer Sale, I know I've got a lot of games, but a lot of those games were bought at stupidly low prices, or stuff like humble bundles and stuff like that, right? So I think that the cost of games is probably more of an issue if you're a console gamer than it is as a PC gamer, right? But there's going to come to a point where the new hotness is going to come out and you're going to want to play it. I can't see you waiting a year to play Warhammer 40k, for example, out, right? You're going to buy that day one.
Well, Warhammer 40k Total War is coming out on console and PC at the same time. It's a simultaneous release.
Yeah, but you're not going to wait a year for it to come out on the sale, are you? You're going to buy that day one, right? A lot of people are.
Of course I am, yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm hoping to get a preview key. So hopefully I won't make that Civ 7 mistake. I'll know if it's good before I buy it, but you never know. We probably won't, but
we'll see what we can do. But I guess the situation is that I think that games are being pushed from two sides. They're being pushed by increased development costs and the cost of paying your staff and the cost of all the technology required to make better games, and they're being pushed from the other side for the consumer who's having to deal with the 400% increase in the price of RAM and getting brand new graphics cards and getting brand new GPUs and getting 4K monitors and that. So it isn't just one thing that's driving the price up. They're being pushed from both sides, and it's the consumer in the middle who has to kind of navigate their way through that.
You know what else they're doing that you've left out is they're taking away features and making us pay DLC money to get them. I don't know if you remember, but there was a moment where you had to buy a DLC to get blood on your Total Warhammer game.
I remember,
and
yeah.
They called it Blood for the Blood God.
Mm-hmm. I think it was $5.
That's just another squeeze
they
do. Yeah, something wild.
Mm-hmm.
I think I bought it, to my eternal shame.
You can actually blame the Germans for that, because you're not allowed to have blood in German games, so you have to buy it as DLC.
I'm happy to do that.
The irony of the Germans being squeamish. It's we don't like death. We don't like destruction. No blood. No blood.
You know what? Can I say? I'm going to say right now, this conversation has convinced me to finally buy Menace. I'm going to buy Menace.
Why is that?
During the podcast? Well, because it is an awesome game that's not that expensive.
Oh, there's a good thing. And talking of which, I mean, as strategy gamers, we're going to have to rely on companies like Hooded Horse, who release Menace, who will bring us these sort of awesome indie to stroke AA games that don't need a shit ton of resources or high-end PCs to run, right? So what I think my point is, we need to start ignoring these AAA games and start supporting these like smaller publishers like Hooded Horse and Microprose, who are actually releasing games for us, right?
One thing that I always think about when it comes to gaming is like the cost benefit ratio. So if you think if you want to go to the cinema now, you might pay I don't know what it's like in the US, maybe $20 for a ticket. So you take a family of four, and there's $80 it's cost you for 2 hours of entertainment, where you could buy a game for $80 and you get 10, 20. I mean, what they say most AAA games look at maybe 40 hours of content. Now, my two most played games are both Paradox games, Cities Skylines and Stellaris, of which I played 7,000 hours of each. So even if I paid $70 for Cities Skylines, and I think I probably paid a bit more because of DLCs and all that kind of stuff, and the same with Stellaris. If I paid $70 for Stellaris, but I've paid more because of the DLCs. In terms of cost per hour of entertainment, we're looking at pennies. So you may pay more for a AAA game, but if it keeps you going for an obscene amount of time, then is it really that expensive? Would it be expensive for me to have paid $700 for Stellaris and all of its DLCs if I've played it for 7,000 hours? I think that's actually probably quite reasonable.
Well, for a start, you're just a weirdo, right?
Well, yes, there is that. There is that, and we've never said that that's not the case, you know. But
I'm impressed with myself when I've paid like 500 hours of a game. Mm-hmm. I think I've got my money's worth at that point.
Well, there you go.
You're right.
You've got your money's worth after 500 hours. If you paid, and that could be a game that you paid 50 quid for, and it's like, well, actually, that's actually a really good return on my investment. So are our complaints about the cost of games justified when you're able to get 500 hours of entertainment out of
right? But it's not just the
for.
cost of games, right? For example, say next year Stellaris 2 comes out and they've got a brand new engine, and it's like, you know, dust clouds and nebulas, and they're all bright and shiny, and you've spent 7,000 hours playing Stellaris 1. You load up Stellaris 2 and it's like 15 frames per second. Well, I'm going to have to go out and buy a new PC, right? This is where the cost is actually. I don't think the price of games isn't the issue for me. It's the price of hardware. And even in the strategy game field, there will be games we're going to want to play, like Stellaris 2, if that ever comes out, that you're probably going to need to upgrade to play.
Yeah. Well, I did that with Cities Skylines too. I bought it. I actually paid real money for Cities Skylines 2. Played it for 10 minutes and I was like, this is trash. And it wasn't because, I mean, I have a decent PC. I could play it, no problem. But I was like, this is trash. And I went back to Cities Skylines 1, which brings me to another kind of issue here, which is around mods, because I think the reason I went back to Cities Skylines 1 was because the mods that were available made it a much more pleasant experience. So when it comes to mods, I think that it seems like a double-edged sword for developers, really, because mods will keep their games going for a lot longer, but it also kind of stops them being in a position where they can push their next title, like we found with Cities 2, because it didn't have the same. Well, for one, it wasn't even on the Steam Workshop. They took control of modding and put it into their own Paradox launcher, or at least so that it could be available on consoles, but really just so they could have full control over everything. Mods make games overall cheaper because they extend the life of what you bought, but the developer doesn't get anything from that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think mods is another thing we've been overlooked. Like, I'm known for being a 4X gamer, right? And over the past 5 years or so, every 4X game that's come out has just been trash, right?
Mm-hmm.
Humankind, Our History Untold, Millennium, and Civ 7. So I've been thinking, well, everyone's sort of always hyped for this new game and gets disappointed. There are so many older 4X games out there that also have really good mods out there, or there was 4X games that came out that could have been really great, but because it was a smaller dev and they didn't make the money on release, they just had to abandon the game. But if we came together as a community and start working on mods together, getting people together, that's look at these diamonds in the rough and say, look, okay, this game, it came out, it was buggy, the development was dropped on it, but there was something there. We just need more people to come together with different talents and start working on mods together. What can we do as a strategy game community to start thinking about? I think this is one of the main points I wanted to bring out. We need to start thinking about these older games that could be great play today, but for whatever reason, they're not really playable, but they could be playable with mods, right?
Yeah, I mean, Command & Conquer Generals 2 was cancelled, as you know. It was in 2010 or whatever it was cancelled. But EA, and it was surprised that EA would do this. EA released the source code for Generals in 0 Hour, didn't they, a few years ago? And the modding community have picked up that source code, and now you have Generals which runs on 64-bit machines, and it plays on modern systems. So that kind of thing already happens. But I think maybe what we need to do is look at doing an episode or two in the future where we say, right, well, what are the hidden gems, the golden titles out there that have perhaps been abandoned or have remained unloved, and these are ones that people should be paying attention to.
Battle for Middle-earth.
Battle for Middle-earth.
And this is like, that point you make is absolutely brilliant. There's IPs out there that are basically abandoned, but you have these bloody companies that just keep hold of them, and they're never going to make another game out of that IP. Why don't they do what surprisingly EA did and just release the source code for these older games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let the audience. I can see why they do it, because if you're playing an older game, you're not going to buy the new game. But it would be so nice if, like, there's what is that thing? It's been going through the European Parliament.
Stop killing games.
Yeah, the Stop Killing Games thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need more initiatives like this to sort of almost force these companies to, relinquish their hold on these older games, or at least let them be modders do their work to make them playable.
So, off the top of your head, can you give me one title that you think that from in the 4X sphere that you think should get that treatment first? On the spot.
On the spot, right? Well, I can give an example of one that's already been done. Actually, Sword of Stars 2, right? Sword of Stars 2, which was made by Kerberos Games and was released by Paradox, published by Paradox. The game came out in an absolute mess, right? And what happened was Kerberos blamed Paradox for pushing them to release too early, and Paradox blamed Kerberos for not giving them, like, they gave them the money to make this game and they were promised they will be able to make the game, but obviously it went over budget. So what happened was that game's been stuck in limbo, and I don't think they're actually, Kerberos can't release the source code to that game because it's owned by Paradox, even though it's their game. So you've got this situation where you've got the publisher and the maker who are so pissed off with each other, they won't even speak to each other or try and contact to resolve the situation. And it's ended up that game has been stuck in a buggy mess that if the source code was released, I know a couple of years ago someone did manage to decompile the exe, but again, the mod ended up being abandoned because it was just so much work. Whilst if the source code was released, it would just be a lot easier for modders to bring that game up to a good standard, right? So yeah, Sword of Stars 2 would be my answer. And it was actually one of the games I was most looking forward to at the time, and it's probably one of my biggest disappointments in gaming was that release.
I can give you two, but none of them are 4X games.
Any strategy games, really.
Battle for Middle Earth. I already said it. Great game. Somebody owns it. I think EA does. They have no interest in doing anything with it. You literally play out the movies in an RTS game. It's amazing. Second one, the movies, where you make movies, and it's got all these tools that come with it, and it's a fun, geeky little game that would still be great now, and it's stuck, owned by a company that's now defunct. And people keep making indie versions of it that aren't as good, unfortunately. No offense to those places. They're doing their best, but nobody can recreate this magic.
Let's talk about indies for a second then, because I think that was, and we talked about Hooded Horse, we talked about Microprose, and as Drexy points out, those are really the people that we're looking at in order to restore consumer confidence or our faith in strategy titles. But when you look at recent results when it comes to Game of the Years and things like that, indies are hands down winning, aren't they? If you compare AAA price point titles against indies, when it comes to Game of the Year, the indies are doing really, really well. They tend to be cheaper. They tend to run on lesser spec machines, and they are, by many, many different metrics, better games anyway. So do we really need AAA games anymore?
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, for example, that, what was it, Clerics? It's not really my kind of game. I did buy it, but I haven't played it. But that Clerics, was it called?
Obscura, something like that. Yeah. Was it?
Yeah. That game got a whole load of accolades and awards, and that was made by a AA studio. And to me, it looks as good as any AAA game. And I think they had like 60 people or something. So, I mean, can these AAA companies actually look at stuff like that? Or are they even willing to say, oh, well, do we need all these resources to make these games?
Mm-hmm. I mean, Disco Elysium, Slay the Spire, these are all games which are indie titles and have done exceptionally well. So maybe we AAA studios should just stop. But maybe there's a risk that when they stop, innovation stops as well, and we don't see Civ 8.
Well, are AAA studios the ones innovating? It's indies that are doing a lot of the best innovating. Look at what's the space exploration? No Man's Sky. Do you guys remember the hype behind No Man's Sky when that came out? And that game, I haven't played it in years, but that game actually ended up being pretty good in the end, and they put a ton of work into it. They're like a shining success story now.
if that game was released by EA, right, it would have just been dead on arrival. They would have cut any.
They would have killed it right away.
Well, but because that team was so passionate about their game and they own the game, they were able to put the time and effort into bringing it up to being a really good game, right?
Yeah, and Manor Lords. I mean, there's another title. It's not overly expensive. It is critically acclaimed. It is commercially successful, and it is player acclaimed as well. People love Manor Lords, and it's a solo dev, and it doesn't require a beast of a machine to run, does it? So maybe that's where we need to be looking. Maybe Drexy has a point after all. That's where we need to look. We need to look at these indie titles, and we need to place our faith in the likes of Hooded Horse.
Yeah, I think we just need to come together as a community, and start supporting these indie devs, mod makers. You know, it's hard to make a mod. Maybe we can start. I've got an idea. I've had ideas of. I think all mods should be on GitHub, and people should be able to contribute towards making them as well. So I think just as a because we're a niche community, we just need to come more together and start building games we want, and not being reliant on these AAA companies really for our next big game.
Yeah, and we're not talking about critical moves. We're talking about the wider strategy gaming community. You know, including the other podcasts, including Discord servers, including everybody.
Sell me on all these mods.
Well, for example, you're saying you hate like Civ 7, right? But why not go back to Civ 4? There's some amazing mods in Civ 4, right? You've got Fall from Heaven. What was the other big one? Caveman to Cosmos or something like that. And these are like, and I'll give another example. One I've been trying to get into recently is a mod for EU4 called Ambernar. And what that does is it's a total conversion mod for EU4, and it actually turns it into a fantasy grand strategy game, right? With like elves and magic and stuff like that. And it's an absolutely amazing mod. So there are mods out there that, you know, instead of, because obviously EU5 is going to take another 5 years to be as good as EU4, right?
A standard paradox.
Yeah. So you might as well go back to EU4, and there's some killer mods out there, right? Even for like Stellaris, mods are massive in Stellaris, right?
But isn't there a risk that if we do that all the time, and if as a community we said, okay, well, you've released EU5, we're not going to play it, we're going to go back to EU4, that we never see EU6? I'm not saying that would be a bad thing if we never saw EU6. I'm saying, is that not a risk that they say, well, we're just not going to make any more because EU5 fails on a commercial level because people aren't buying it because they're just sticking with EU4?
No, because EU5, we all know that EU5 is not going to be as good as EU4 for 5 years. The same things happened with CK3, right? Now it's finally as content rich as CK2, but the game's been out, 5-6 years now? 6 years, I think. It's taken all this time. So whether or not, I mean, no one's going to, I know people bought EU5 at release, but they're obviously not going to be playing it. Are you saying that if we are too focused on older games, we're not going to be buying newer games, thus the developers are not going to have the money to make the next iteration? Do they deserve our money?
I'm just saying, is there not a risk that that's going to happen? And I'm not saying it would be a bad thing if there was never a EU6 or a CK4, as an example. I'm not saying that would be a bad thing, but is there a risk that if we don't support the latest iteration of these franchises, that we don't see any more? When Ben Angel was on one of our episodes, I think we was talking to Jack about this, and he said that it seems to him that a lot of games are just being released as vehicles for DLC, so they come out unfinished, and it isn't just Paradox. It's they all seem to do that. We talked about the limited factions. I think it might have been the three of us, the limited factions in the Warhammer games and the Warhammer Total War games and what we expect for the Warhammer 40k Total War games. They're being released almost bare bones with the promise that they're going to flesh them out, and it seems to be that's the way that these things happen now.
Then do they need to be raising their prices? Does the price have to go up then?
Well, no. Is this then the perfect example? If we all start playing the older games and not supporting the newer games, then this sends a signal they can't just keep releasing these games in the state they are because no one's going to buy them. It's actually going to be, we need to show them that they can't keep doing this to us, right? That if we just keep giving them money on release, which is something else I complain about, because I'll give an example. Someone bought a $160 Civ 7 on release, and I was like, you saw what Civ 6 was released, and you moaned about Civ 6 on release, and now you're pre-ordering $160 packages for Civ 7, and they're not going to learn if people keep doing that. They will learn if we keep playing the older games. Don't buy their game on release. So when they're releasing in the future, they're going to start thinking, well, maybe we have to start releasing games that has actual content in them, right? Maybe it's on us to force them to release games in a lot better state with content, not release a game, it'll be good in 3, 4, 5 DLC times, right?
It just seems that the paradox way at the moment is to release games and say there was some reviews for EU4 saying, well, we know that it will be good eventually, but it's going to take a couple of years. And it's like, if we've already come to accept this as the practice, how easy is it going to be to get people to change the way that they conduct themselves when it comes to what they spend their money on? It's not going to be easy, is it?
No, you're right. And, well, we can't control other people. So that's the thing. You either put up a sharp or actually put your foot down. And I think we just need to... I know it's... This is another thing. The hype around games is so massive nowadays. It's just almost impossible to... I don't know, for you to protest a game saying I'm not going to buy this at release, because there's going to be thousands and thousands of other people who are ready just to throw their wallet at these companies on day one, right?
Yeah, it's FOMO, isn't it? And that's what it is. And it's a case of, if everybody else has bought one, you don't want to miss out.
I did that to Football Manager. I have AL type numbers in the old football games, and this year's version, I was pissed that they weren't going to have international management, even though international management has never been that great in Football Manager, but it annoyed me. So I didn't buy it, and turns out it's terrible, and I'm not going to buy it, and I don't miss it. I might never buy one again.
Well, speaking of that, when you spoke about Football Manager, I actually went off. You know what? I actually fancy playing, because I used to play the Championship management games back in the day. And you can't buy the previous versions of Football Manager games. You can only buy the last release. They've delisted the older ones. Seriously.
Sad.
So you've got the worst released version that's out now, and that's the only Football Manager you can play right now.
I did not know that. That's crazy, because honestly, I was about to tell you, go back and get FM20 or FM24 if you want to play one.
Do it. And this is like crazy. This is what these bloody AAA companies do, because they know their game is bad. So people who may not have bought the older games that want a Football Manager game would have gone and bought the older ones. Now, you can't actually do that. This is the most egregious thing I think I've seen a company do recently.
I mean, that's poor, isn't it? That's just a really shitty way of conducting yourself.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, even like the F1 games, you can buy the older ones, but this, you can only buy the latest iteration. They've delisted the older versions.
If you had a Steam key, could you still get it?
I presume so, yeah. But I've looked around for Steam keys, and either they're outrageous price or just There are none.
I'm not saying this is the reason why when it comes to Football Manager, but maybe there's some licensing conditions where they're required, in order to have the license, they're required to stop selling the previous versions in order to keep the license for the latest iteration. I'm not saying that's the case. It's just kind of occurred to me that might be one explanation as to why, because it makes sense for them to financially, it makes sense for them to sell as many games as they possibly can, whether that's FM24 or FM26. So are they being told that they can't sell it so that they're playing the most up-to-date leagues, most up-to-date player bases and everything according to FIFA, rather than because they have made a egregious decision to stop doing it?
Well, I'm so jilted, I'm not sure.
I hadn't noticed. I hadn't.
Okay. While you guys were talking, I found 2019, FM 2019 for you, Drexy. Great version of the game.
Right, but then I'm going to have to go to like a dodgy key site, right?
Yeah. Oh,
to
for
get
sure.
it. It's not actually available, which, you know, for a
It's
game
not
like, or a AAA game. Yeah, but it's just, yeah, it's crazy that there's situations like that. Do you think somewhere like Paradox would do something like that? No, I don't think so, no.
I think you can still buy Crusader Kings 1 and 2, can't you?
Yeah.
But I suppose this is another thing then, isn't it? Because as there's, I don't know, we rely a lot on good old games to make sure that older games are still playable on modern machines, because they tend not to always be compatible with the latest drivers or the latest technology. So is that something that needs to be considered as well? If you do upgrade your machine, and you upgrade beyond your ability to play these older games.
Yeah, they actually have quite a good system at the moment over there where people can suggest games and people upvote them. And if they get a lot of upvotes, then it gives them more incentive to actually try and get the license for the games and stuff like that and re-release them. So that is another avenue for us, right?
Yeah, I tried to make the movies happen on my computer and I just couldn't. It just wasn't gonna work. It's too new. The game's too old. No matter how much I tried, I couldn't do it.
So what you have to do there is look for something which is similar, but which you're going to have to pay extra money for. So therefore, they've kind of got you, haven't they? Because now you've got to go and spend more money, and therefore gaming is more expensive because you're having to buy a replacement title for one that you already own, because technology has moved on in such a way that you can no longer play those old games. Joe, what is the answer to this?
I have no idea.
It's still early for Sleepy Joe, so we can forgive him for saying that. I don't know what's going on anymore. Which was the look on his face just then, like, oh, whatever. I've no idea.
I don't. Well, I told you my answer. My answer is I'm not going to buy a game unless I know it's good now. I'm not going to do a day one anything. I don't have FOMO. FOMO doesn't exist for me anymore. So I won't buy a game new. If a game is actually awesome, what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to look it up and then play Terra Invicta instead.
So you're just going to stick to your old library.
Mm-hmm. Or Menace. I just bought Menace, so maybe I'll play Menace instead.
Whilst we've been recording this, you've just bought Menace.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I have no idea what you even said to me just now.
Oh, so it wasn't a case of you had no answer, you just wasn't listening.
Nope.
Thanks for paying attention.
I'm back now. He's back.
Well, you could have played the original XCOM with mods, right? Instead
of Menace. I never played the original XCOM.
Yeah, exactly. You could have gone back. There's I'm sure there's a mod that there are quite good mods out for that. So instead of buying Menace,
see, this is where you're better than me. I have to have a minimum standard of graphics.
Right,
there's only so far I can go.
A lot of people have this issue, right?
Like, I really want to play Shadow of the Horned Rat again, this old game I loved when I was younger. and I go to download it, because you can buy it on GOG. I go to buy it, and I just look at those graphics. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can stomach this.
And is this not the root cause of the issue that we were talking about earlier, where we, as consumers, we demand better graphics, better maps, better stories, better content, which requires expenditure by developers for 3D artists, for modelers, for mappers, for actual real story writers. And then we complain that things are more expensive.
And you have to buy the hardware to play these new
and the hardware as well. And the hardware as well. And
I just told you guys I would play the movies. That's a game from like 2000. I don't feel like I'm asking for that much here.
Right, but wouldn't it be perfect if someone came out with a mod, made it really playable on modern systems? Maybe there were some quirks with the UI and stuff like that, where the mod fixes all that and gets rid of bugs that was in that. Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be amazing. Yes.
Exactly. And this is what I think we need.
I would buy that modder a coffee.
There you go. This is what we need to be doing. There are older games out there that, even if you can play them right now, maybe a bit too clunky and a bit thing, but what if a modder came along, maybe spruced up the graphics a bit, made the UI a bit thing, 64-bit thing? Like, wasn't there like someone posted on our Discord that someone released a mod for Total War? Maybe it was me, actually. But Medieval 2 made it a 64-bit client and stuff like that.
Wasn't there some handsome poster who posted a brilliant post about Medieval 2? It was you, Drexy. You did it. You did it, Drexy. Drexy, excuse me.
So I guess the question for the audience is then, before we bring proceedings to a close, what games would they recommend that fill the void left by the expense of hardware upgrades or the expense of AAA games? What games would they like to see get a full mod treatment in order to make them playable on modern machines? Come and tell us. Either leave a comment or come to the Discord and engage with the community. Come and talk to us. We're always there, Drexy mostly, to to get involved and answer your questions. Gentlemen, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, just on that point, not just mods they want. Recommend us some mods. Recommend us a game and a really good mod, maybe like a total conversion, maybe, or something like that. In the comments, recommend some good mods we should try, or come on the Discord and slap us back and say you must play this mod for this game.
Didn't Joe do that with you when he recommended Mountain Blade?
Yeah. I've actually downloaded. I haven't played it yet, but I've downloaded it. I've modded it, so I'm actually going to play Mountain Blade for the first time with the mod. So
you're going to do the mod?
Yeah.
Nice. You're going to be like, this game is so hard. It's the mod. The mod is really hard. I'm happy for you.
Okay, well, let's call it a day. Thanks very much for coming and speaking to me today, Drexy and Sleepy Joe. That's your new nickname forever now. We will call you Mr. President. It's always a pleasure. And if this is your first time listening to Critical Moves, please do me a favor and like, subscribe, whatever it is. Please the algorithm gods by telling them that you like the stuff that we put out. It is appreciated. Come to our Discord and chat to us. And if you go to criticalmovespodcast.com, you'll find all the ways to get in touch. Or if you search Strategy Gaming Podcasts in Google, we're the #1 hit because I'm just that good when it comes to SEO. So there's a bit of a flex from Al. We'll leave it there. Come and say hi, and we'll see you next time. So thanks for listening. Take it easy. Goodbye.